Welcome to class, everyone. Jump right in, grab a seat. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer because we're looking at a truly fascinating chapter of the world. Today, we're diving into the life, the lineage, and the incredible legacy of a man whose very blood literally encapsulated empires. Now, I want you to really listen to his full name because it carries the weight of centuries of history. We are studying the life of Nizam Mir Berkat Ali Khan Siddiqui Mukarram Jah. That's pronounced Mukarram Jah. He was the last in the line of Hyderabad's noble Nizams, and his story? Well, it's a phenomenal bridge between vast continents and completely bygone eras. Okay, let's just quickly review today's syllabus. We're going to start with a royal passing remembered, then explore roots in the Mughal court and the Great Ottoman Alliance. After that, we'll look at the $250 billion grandfather, examine what it meant to be a prince across two worlds, and finally wrap up with the sunsets on Hyderabad. So, Section 1, a royal passing remembered, the end of an era. Okay, let's dive into this. As we sit here in our current year of 2026, it's really important to anchor our historical lens on a relatively recent event that permanently closed a massive, massive chapter of global history. It has now been exactly 3 years since a chilly winter's day, January 14th, 2023, when Nizam Mukarram Jah took his final breath in Istanbul, Turkey. And this passing wasn't just the loss of a man, it marked the absolute end of an era. But the somber reality we see from that day reminds us that his journey absolutely didn't end in Turkey. Following his final wishes, he was brought all the way back to his homeland of Hyderabad. Under a solemn evening sky, he was laid to rest in the historic family cemetery at Makkah Masjid. Right there, surrounded by the towering memories of a dynasty that once ruled the Deccan Plateau with just unparalleled grace and grandeur. Moving on to Section 2, roots in the Mughal court, from Samarkand to the Deccan. Because to truly understand Mukarram Jah's story, class, we can't just look at his final days. We need to step way back into history and trace the roots of this illustrious family tree. We're talking about a lineage that reaches all the way back to the first caliph, Hazrat Abu Bakr, extends through the revered Sufi saint Sheikh Shahabuddin Suharwardi, and directly intersects with a magnificent court of the Mughal emperor Shah Jahan himself. Now, to grasp the political structure of this family, we really need to understand their title. You might be wondering, why on earth didn't the rulers of Hyderabad call themselves kings or emperors? Well, his ancestors preferred the traditional Mughal designation of Nizam-ul-Mulk, which basically translates to administrator of the realm. You see, even as they grew incredibly, vastly powerful, they deliberately chose not to claim an imperial title. It was out of this complex, deep respect and deference to the Mughal throne. Let's walk through this ancestral hourglass together. The foundation of all this power, it starts with his ancestor, Khwaja Abid Khan Siddiqui, who traveled from Samarkand, Bukhara, to serve the Mughal throne. Rising up the ranks under Emperor Aurangzeb, he became known as Kilich Khan, literally one of the most respected nobles of the late 1600s. And this paved the way for his grandson, Mir Kamaruddin Khan Siddiqui Bey Alfandi, who's much better known as Nizam al-Mulk Asafzad I. In the 18th century, as the Mughal Empire's power was kind of waning, Asaf Shah I established independent rule in the Deccan, founding the Asaf Jahi dynasty. And it's this exact dynasty that would govern Hyderabad all the way until the mid-20th century. Incredible, right? All right, Section 3, the Great Ottoman Alliance, a union of empires. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how the geopolitics of the early 20th century physically altered the bloodline of this Indian royal family. Let's look at how the Asaf Jahs of Hyderabad completely merged with the Ottoman caliphs. Take a look at this. This captures an absolute geopolitical masterpiece. A royal wedding in Nice, France, back in 1931. Mukarram Jah's father, Prince Azam Jah, wed Princess Duru Shahwar. And actually, it was Shaukat Ali, a really prominent leader of the Khilafat movement, who actively pushed the Nizam to pursue this highly strategic marriage alliance. The goal was profound, right? To bring together the rich, rich heritage of two deeply influential Muslim dynasties. And at the exact same time, the Nizam's younger son actually married Princess Nilufar, another Ottoman royal, further cementing these massive cross-continental bonds. So what you should really take away from this is the sheer extraordinary nature of Mukarram Jah's dual heritage. Through his father, he descended directly from the last ruling Nizam and the Grand Mughal nobles. And through his mother, Princess Duru Shahwar, he was the direct grandson of the very last Ottoman caliph, Sultan Abdul Majid II. No way around it, his identity was literally woven from the fabric of two of history's absolute most powerful empires. Okay, Section 4. The quarter-trillion-dollar grandfather, Mir Osman Ali Khan. We now turn to the man who arguably cast the longest shadow over Mukarram Jah's life, his grandfather, the Asaf Jah VII, Mir Osman Ali Khan. This was the guy who ruled over what was, at the time, India's absolute wealthiest princely state. $236 billion. Let that sink in for a second. In 1937, Time magazine featured a photograph of Osman Ali Khan right on its cover, highlighting a level of wealth that was just almost unfathomable. Adjusted for today's valuation, it sits at nearly $236 billion. That's enough to boggle the mind. But remember, class, this jaw-dropping legacy symbolized a lot more than just money. It represented the unparalleled influence, power, and historical weight of Hyderabad's Nizams on the world stage. So naturally, Mukarram Jah's birth in 1933 was a moment of massive, massive celebration in this spectacularly wealthy kingdom. Moving to Section 5. A Prince Across Two Worlds, The Tale of Two Lives. And this brilliantly illustrates the immense contrast that really defined Mukarram Jah's unique upbringing. Because he wasn't just a prince of Hyderabad. He was a true global citizen navigating a rapidly changing 20th century. On one hand, his early years were steeped in highly traditional royal customs under his mother's watchful eye. He was completely immersed in this ancient Deccan heritage. But on the other hand, his life was decidedly global. I mean, he was actually born in France on October 6, 1933. His academic journey took him to the Doon School in India and then way across the world to the super prestigious Harrow School in England. While at Harrow, he literally sat in classrooms sharing notes with future Middle Eastern royalty, young men who would eventually go on to rule modern Jordan and Iraq. He was truly a prince with a foot in two very, very different worlds. Finally, Section 6. The Sun Sets on Hyderabad, the final chapter. Because, as we know, the tides of history wait for no monarch. We kind of have to shift our tone to a more somber historical reality now, as the modern era inevitably caught up with this ancient dynasty. Let's walk through this final timeline together. Mukarram Jah was born into incredible royalty in 1933, but by 1947, the world shifted dramatically as India finally gained its independence. Now his grandfather, Mir Osman Ali Khan, desperately sought a path for Hyderabad to remain an autonomous, sovereign state, but history would simply not allow it. In 1948, the Indian government annexed Hyderabad through Operation Polo. Just like that, the sovereignty of the Asaf Jahi dynasty was over. Yet, it's absolutely crucial to note that even though they were no longer sovereign rulers, his grandfather continued his immense philanthropic efforts until his death, remaining deeply beloved by the people. Mukarram Jah, the heir to this now symbolic throne, continued his own journey, living out his days across continents until his passing in Istanbul in 2023. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to chew on. How exactly does the legacy of a dual dynasty survive when its sovereign land is completely gone, but its bloodline spans across continents? From the Mughal courts to the Ottoman palaces, right down to a quiet grave at Makkah Masjid, the story of Nizam Mir Barkat Ali Khan Siddiqui Mukarram Jah is this stunning reminder of how quickly empires fade, yet how enduring their cultural and historical imprints really are. Thank you so much for joining me in class today to explore the rich tapestry of this bygone era. I hope this deep dive helped you grasp the incredible historical forces that shaped one man's extraordinary life. Keep analyzing, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.